British chemist, engineer, and industrialist, most famously known for the invention of dynamite. On December 10, 1901, the first Nobel Prizes were awarded in physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature, and peace. The first Nobel Peace Prize went to the Swiss Jean-Henri Dunant for his role in founding the International Red Cross movement and initiating the Geneva Convention, and jointly given to French pacifist Frederick Passy, founder of the Peace League and active with Dunant in the Alliance for Order and Civilization. Switzerland-based International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, is the only three-time recipient of the Nobel Prize, being conferred with the Peace Prize in 1917, 1944 and 1963. Madame Marie Curie, well known for her work in radiation, went on to become the first person ever to be awarded 2 Nobel Prizes. Pakistani Malala Yousafzai is the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner in history. She is 24 and is known around the world simply as Malala. She is a global advocate for girls' rights and education who has sat with presidents and prime ministers to push for change. See you next time on Betcha Didn't Know. Compliments of Sigismund Consultants, Inc.
Did you know that every child has a right to education? A message from the Rights of the Child Commission.
Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good. With the news, I am Ruth Wilson. Good evening. First, the highlights. The president wants the Guyana Defense Force to map a strategy to deal with potential threats to the proposed natural gas to shore pipeline. The opposition, APNU-AFC, and the Speaker of the National Assembly are still at odds over claims that he is biased. And in the region, child rights activists are paying keen attention to explicit videos of children being posted on TikTok. Details of these and other stories in a moment.
KFC will be holding an employment call Sunday, 13 February 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at the Vlesingian Road branch. Get interviewed on the spot. You'll need a job application, a vaccination card that shows you're fully vaccinated, ID, TIN, police clearance, 2 references, passport-size photograph, and your birth certificate. KFC's employment call, Sunday, February 13th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at KFC's Vlesingian Road branch.
And now for the news in detail. President Irfan Ali on Thursday asked the Guyana Defense Force to put in place a plan to protect the gas-to-shore pipeline. He issued the call at the opening of the Guyana Defense Force's annual officers' conference.
There will be a pipeline, a gas pipeline that is coming into Guyana. You look around the world and see how gas pipeline can become an instrument of threat to destabilize regions and countries. So we have to have our own strategy dealing with the protection of these assets, the management of these assets. How do we respond if there is an unforeseen challenge out there? We can't wait in the unlikely event that something happens and then we are hustling for a response. We have to have a strategic approach to all of these things now.
The gas-to-shore pipeline, is expected to run more than 200 miles from the Liza 1 well to West Coast Demerara shore and then run along the west bank of Demerara to Wales, where a gas-powered electricity plant will be built. The president says the Guyana Defense Force also needs to position itself to deal with the opening of new roads. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity Alliance for Change, APNU-AFC, says that its parliamentarian Sherrod Duncan has not been properly suspended. He was suspended for disorderly conduct after he refused repeated calls by House Speaker Mansour Nadir to stop being abusive. Angered at Minister Nigel Dharamlal telling a female opposition parliamentarian that she needed a dildo, Mr. Duncan called him nasty and accused Mr. Nadir of condoning his behavior. Opposition frontbencher attorney-at-law Kemraj Ramjatan says that House Speaker Mansour Nadir asked Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Gil Teixeira to move a motion for the suspension of Mr. Duncan while the House was still in the Committee of Supply.
In relation to, and this is my final observation, to the matter of suspension of Mr. Sherrod Duncan. Well, I am making the observation that it happened in the Committee of Supply rather than the larger National Assembly when the suspension ought to be.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Opposition Chief Whip Christopher Jones also formally wrote the Speaker on the wrong application of the standings order. Mr. Ramjatan also sought to assure the House that opposition parliamentarians will try their best not to cause a repeat of Wednesday's disorderly conduct.
Mr. Speaker, we, on this side of the House, would like to share our concerns with what we regard as a deterioration of the debate that occurred yesterday and reached a certain height that created problems for the House. And we will strive as best as possible to ensure that there be a maturity in the debate, and we would expect or are urging that we get that also from the government side.
That was APNU AFC's parliamentarian Kemraj Ramjatan. Meanwhile, Minister of Local Government Nigel Dharamlal late last night withdrew all offending remarks in the Housing during the consideration of the 2022 National Budgetary Estimates. He did not specifically refer to his remarks about a dildo to a female opposition parliamentarian. He did not apologize, and the withdrawal of the offensive comments was not unconditional.
This House had some issues which we believe that became very heated. And so I'd like to, Mr. Speaker, to indicate to you that if I had said anything that was misconstrued, that it was not my intention to make those statements to that effect. And if there were statements which were also unparliamentary on my part during the course of the interrogations, then I would like to withdraw them as well.
The withdrawal of the statements was done in the absence of a Partnership for National Unity Alliance for Change parliamentarians who had walked out of the remainder of Wednesday's sitting after their parliamentarian Sherrod Duncan was suspended. Mr. Dharamlal later on his Facebook page explicitly apologized to anyone who felt offended. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says that many people in Guyana's interior regions do not want to take a COVID vaccine.
We have been sending out to areas in the interior locations to administer vaccines, but unfortunately in some of the villages that we've gone to, there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy. And despite going in several times and offering education, it still remains a concern and a problem because people are not taking the vaccines. So it's not a matter of access. The vaccines are available, but because of misinformation, I think we're having that challenge.
Dr. Anthony says that more money has been allocated in the 2022 national budget to intensify vaccination across Guyana, including the interior regions.
Nevertheless, this year we have allocated enough monies to continue these campaigns where we'll be sending out teams to do vaccination in various communities across the interior.
The number of active COVID cases continues to drop steadily. Official figures from the Health Ministry show that there are now 3,127 active cases, with 3,038 ordered to isolate themselves at home to stop spreading the virus. Of the 89 persons who are hospitalized, 18 are very sick and are receiving intensive care. Within the past 24 hours, 160 new cases have been recorded. You're with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM on our Facebook page live and our YouTube channel. It is 18 hours 9. We now turn to news in the region. A top Barbados tourism industry is raising concern about the haphazard implementation of COVID protocols at the Grantley Adams International Airport. The Barbados Tourism Authority wants rapid tests to be accepted rather than only PCR tests. Details from Barbados Today.
Tourism and healthcare officials are being chided for what has been described as inefficient protocols at the Grantley Adams International Airport that are causing major headaches for visitors to the island. This as chairman of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Rene Coppin, warned that industry players are at their wits' end over lack of transparency and clarity regarding the systems that have been governing the entry of airline passengers over the last 2 years.
We have used COVID as a scapegoat for what is fundamentally lack of proper systems and processes in the management of things on this island. And we continue to have, as if we are in Groundhog Day, it's become a running joke for us in our board meetings, that we continue to have the same set of complaints regarding the ease of entry into the island, the treatment to the testing protocols, the transparency of the protocols, and the way that people are entering through and even the utilization of the BIMSAFE app. We continue to have issues with all of these things, and they're not being addressed consistently. And these are things that we've asked as an association to have addressed over the last 2 years. And we continue in 2022 to have some of the same problems that we had in 2020 when we started this pandemic. And we are at the point where we feel that this is no longer something we can continue to be silent about.
Current protocols require vaccinated travelers to present a negative PCR test taken within a 72-hour period prior to travel or a rapid PCR test to avoid quarantine. The BHTA is calling for rapid antigen COVID-19 tests to be accepted for entry as an alternative to the PCR test.
Certainly we want to ensure that our protocols are both keeping Barbadians safe, our visitors safe, but also reflecting the realities of the virus as it emerges. And we have requested, therefore, that we look at expanding our testing regimen to include the rapid antigen taken within a shorter time frame before travel. We are doing that as a measure that we're seeing that has proven very effective in other markets, certainly in the Caribbean and elsewhere.
That was the chairman of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Rene Coppin, ending that report from Barbados Today. The rapid increase in the number of TikTok videos featuring Jamaican children has drawn the attention of a well-known children's advocate. Diane Gordon Harrison says her office will be moving to clamp down on parents and children involved in what is most times slack and improper content. Ms. Harrison says her office has an increase in the number of videos and will be taking steps to first identify the children and then conduct social inquiries into their home situation to determine what is fueling the increase in age-inappropriate content and when there is need for criminal prosecution. The Jamaica Observer reports that she was responding to a question from a guest who wanted to know how parents can deal with TikTok videos featuring toddlers demonstrating intimacy, such as passionate kissing. Gordon Harrison said that a care and protection policy, including interviews with the parents, will decide whether there is need for an inquiry. A group of unvaccinated students specializing in physical education at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, UTT, are worried that they may be falling behind. This, as the students tell Bhavita Gopalchan, some courses are being held at safe zone facilities, preventing them from attending. UTT has since acknowledged the students' concerns and is looking into the matter. Details from CNC3 News.
Latoya Evans is almost at the finish line of achieving her goal of being a physical education teacher. But during her last lap at the UTT Sporting Academy in San Fernando, where she attends, Latoya stumbled upon a problem.
Right now, it's just basically two courses I'm having an issue with. The issue really is that lecturers, or I should say few lecturers, have chosen facilities to host sport courses that where we are required to meet physically, right? They call them practical courses. And they have chosen safe zone.
Because of this, Latoya says she and other unvaccinated students are unable to attend classes for netball and basketball.
We have other sports courses and those lecturers have no issue to facilitate us, right? There is a basketball court and other courses, as I say, they're using that facility. But however, this particular course do not want to use that facility and they choose to use external resources.
The students note that there are sporting zones on the school compound available where the lecturers can engage practical classes.
Why other sports courses are held at the compound, which is San Fernando Tech, there are other courses right now enrolling and they are facilitating students like myself. But there are a few that, as I said, not doing it.
Another student tells us they've been reaching out to the lecturers and university staff offering solutions, but these have been falling on deaf ears.
Yes, we understand that they want to have the face-to-face and the interactive part of it, but if it is that it was done online already, for those of us who are unvaccinated and we cannot go to the facility, why don't we have the option of doing the course online as well? Because you ran it for 2 years prior to this, online.
The students say they feel boxed out.
Out of the 12 weeks, we have 1 day per week for each course. And they state that once you miss 2 practicals or 2 classes, automatically you fail. So 1 week has already passed and there is only 1 week left. And if it is we do not attend, automatically we fail.
CNC3 News reached out to UTT Chairman Professor Clement Imber, who acknowledged the students' concerns. He explains that the UTT has been outsourcing private sporting facilities for many years. However, these have now been designated safe zones. He assures that the university is working on a solution to ensure that no student is left behind and they can soon engage in practical classes with their peers. Bhavita Gopalchan, CNC3 News.
Superintendent of Barbados Prisons, Lieutenant Colonel John Nurse, has apologized to prison officers for the ad hoc COVID-19 testing that took place last week. That testing was ordered following the identification of a new cluster of cases at the St. Philip Jail. While the testing was done in good faith, he said, it had not been sanctioned by the management. Last week, outspoken trade unionist and consultant to the Prison Officers Association, Caswell Franklin, said some prison officers was not pleased about a sudden testing mandate at the start of their shifts amid an outbreak at the penal institution. However, a notice dated February 2, 2022, entitled Apology to Staff, which was obtained by Barbados Today, stated that the Superintendent of Prisons sincerely apologized for and deeply regretted any inconvenience caused by the testing they had to undergo that day. Unfortunately, the Barbados prison chief says that prior authorization from the management of the Barbados Prison Service and the sensitization of staff did not occur. In a statement issued by Minister of Home Affairs and Information Wilfred Abrahams earlier on the same day the testing was done, it was reported that 5 COVID-19 cases had been discovered among the tested employees. The testing had been triggered by more than 50 inmates, kitchen staffers, and prison officers testing positive a few days prior. At 18 hours 18, we now turn to news from the BBC.
BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. Leaders of the 3 Baltic states have called on NATO allies to increase military support in Eastern Europe amid heightened tensions with Russia over fears it could attack Ukraine. The Prime Ministers of Estonia and Latvia, Kaja Kallas and Krišjānis Kariņš, and the President of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, are in Berlin for talks with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Other Western leaders have warned of the dangers of large-scale military manoeuvres involving Russian troops in Belarus and elsewhere. Here's Paul Adams in Kiev.
It is the very fact of these exercises that has led a lot of Western officials, particularly British and American ones, to conclude that we are at the moment of maximum danger, because there is a healthy degree of scepticism about what these exercises are for, and a fear that they could be used as a cover for some kind of further invasion of Ukraine, along with those other Russian forces ranged around Ukraine's eastern borders. And it's not just there, of course. We've got Russian warships sailing through the Bosphorus into the Black Sea. That's pretty routine, but it's another part of the statement, another part of the theatre surrounding this whole affair.
The chief of the London Metropolitan Police has resigned. Dame Cressida Dick is leaving the post 2 years earlier than expected, after the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, expressed reservations about her ability to reform the police force. A recent report into police misconduct had found evidence of what it described as disgraceful misogyny and discrimination, including racist, anti-Semitic and homophobic behaviour. Cressida Dick said she was sad to leave the post but could not continue without the Mayor's support.
Following contact with the Mayor of London today, it is quite clear that the Mayor no longer has sufficient confidence in my leadership of the Metropolitan Police Service for me to continue as Commissioner. He has left me no choice but to step aside. I say this with deep sadness and regret.
Inflation in the United States hit an annual rate of 7.5% in January, the highest in 4 decades. Michelle Fleury reports.
President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package helps save the American economy from the worst of the pandemic, with a record growth in the number of jobs last year. But critics of the government claim those policies contributed to the current spike in prices. The increase was driven by a rise in food, electricity and housing costs. Prices have been going up in the shops and the cost of used cars have been continuing to spiral.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has announced plans to invest heavily in nuclear power and renewables such as solar and wind, in a push to make the country carbon neutral by 2050. He wants at least 6 new nuclear reactors built, the first of which is expected to be in use by 2035. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Portuguese police say they have foiled a terror attack that was being planned by an 18-year-old student to target a Lisbon university on Friday. The man, a Portuguese citizen, has been arrested. Local media reports say police recovered the man's detailed plan, as well as several weapons, including knives. The Moroccan authorities have decided to survey all abandoned wells after a trapped young boy died, despite a valiant but unsuccessful rescue attempt last week. Ryan's plight at the bottom of a narrow 32-metre-deep borehole gripped millions in Morocco and beyond. A water ministry official said the survey was designed to prevent a repeat of the tragedy. It's emerged that the French virologist Luc Montagnier, who was awarded the Nobel Prize for Medicine for jointly discovering the virus that caused AIDS, has died. He was on Tuesday aged 89. Hugh Schofield reports.
In 1982, when the AIDS epidemic was striking fear across the world, especially among gay men, Luc Montagnier was the head of the viral oncology unit at the famous Pasteur Medical Institute in Paris. It was here that tissue from an AIDS victim for the first time revealed the retrovirus that later came to be known as HIV. At the time, there was tight competition with an American team that also claimed to be the first to isolate the retrovirus. But some years later, it was established that the French were in fact first, and Dr. Montagnier was one of the team of 3 who were awarded the Nobel Medicine Prize in 2008.
The British singer Sting has become the latest musician to sell his entire songwriting back catalogue. The deal, thought to be worth up to $300 million, sees Universal Music take control of the publishing for both Sting's solo career and his time with the band Police. It will now pick up the royalties on hits including Every Breath You Take and Fields of Gold. Sting said Universal would respect his work and help bring it to new audiences around the world. Live from London, that's the latest. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
KFC will be holding an employment call Sunday, 13 February 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at the Vlesingian Road branch. Get interviewed on the spot. You'll need a job application, a vaccination card that shows you're fully vaccinated, ID, TIN, police clearance, 2 references, passport-size photograph, and your birth certificate. KFC's employment call, Sunday, February 13th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at KFC's Vlesingian Road branch.
To end the news, here's a recap of the highlights. The president wants the Guyana Defense Force to map a strategy to deal with potential threats to the proposed natural gas-to-shore pipeline. In the opposition, APNU AFC and the Speaker of the National Assembly are still at odds over claims that he is biased. And in the region, child rights activists are paying keen attention to explicit videos of children being posted on TikTok. The news came to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.